Jefferson's presidency was a notable one because the first two presidents had been Federalists. Jefferson was a Democratic Republican, so we had a shift in party when Jefferson became president. So in 1801, Thomas Jefferson took office. He was a Democratic Republican, and he appeared to be more down to earth than the first two presidents. He was more grounded with common people, less snobby, or he didn't appear pompous the way many of these very wealthy, well-educated men who had served before him. Jefferson encouraged Congress to get rid of the Alien and Sedition Acts that Adams had put in place. He also paid down the national debt. One of the few presidents to actually make that happen. He reduced taxes and government spending, mostly by cutting the military expenses. And he made the government bureaucracy smaller in general. Unlike the presidents before Jefferson, and most of the presidents after Jefferson, Jefferson's government actually made money. He did this by selling land to families who were moving west, and also he obtained revenue from increased imports and foreign trade. One of the most important things that Jefferson did was to appoint John Marshall to be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. This happened in 1801, and as you know, Supreme Court justices serve a life term. So they can serve until they retire or pass away. Marshall famously helped guide the Supreme Court to judicial review process, and this occurred in the Supreme Court case Marbury versus Madison, which you probably remember from civics class. To get more information on Marbury versus Madison, go to this URL that's at the bottom of the page. There's a very good explanation of Marbury versus Madison in that video. Marshall had 4 really significant accomplishments, and we're going to be mostly concerned with the first 3. The first one was judicial review, and of course this meant that the Supreme Court could review laws passed by the legislature and rule them unconstitutional. Marshall also, and this is important, Marshall also insisted that federal laws always topped state laws. And this was important in the case of the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions, where they objected to the Alien and Sedition laws passed by Adams. Marshall insisted that federal laws were always superior to state laws. Marshall also used broader use of the necessary and proper clause. He was more flexible in his interpretation of the Constitution. The fourth item, sanctity of contracts, we're not going to worry about that too much, but basically this was Marshall's belief that state government should not interfere with business and business function. Jefferson is known for territorial expansion, for wanting to make the territory of America larger. He really wanted the U.S. to go all the way to the Pacific. The problem was that Napoleon Bonaparte of France had forced Spain to give him the Louisiana Territory. And he also threatened to block the Mississippi River in New Orleans. So Jefferson's chief obstacle here is, of course, Napoleon Bonaparte in sort of expanding the United States and making it go further west. He realized, though, that Napoleon was having trouble protecting and governing the Western Territory. If you remember from the days of the colonies and the British ruling, it's expensive and difficult to manage territory abroad. And so the U.S. diplomats convinced Napoleon to sell the Louisiana Territory to the United States for $15 million. And this was an amazing deal. This is like acres of land for, mere cents on the dollar. He acquired land all the way from the Mississippi to the Rocky Mountains, 828,000 square miles. The only issue here was that this was really beyond presidential authority. This was beyond presidential powers. It was beyond what was allowed in the Constitution. So Jefferson really overstepped his presidential authority by buying the Louisiana Territory.